back. You are in the yard with Marcus Preciado. On the line, as promised, we have three-time Pro Bowl NFL receiver and specialist with a budding acting career as well, and also self-proclaimed world's most sexiest man, Kassim Osgood. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, Marcus. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having us on the show. Hey, man, I want to get into it right away and kind of talk about your San Diego State days. Being a fellow Aztec myself, I really enjoyed seeing you in your college career. I know you split time between San Diego State and Cal Poly. Why don't you take us back kind of to your San Diego State days?
Well, San Diego State was lovely. I actually wanted to transfer from Cal Poly because I was doing quite well there, but I wanted to go up to a higher division and see if I could sort of compete with the big boys, the Division I level. So I actually had a chance to go to Oregon, but September 11th happened. So I had to be enrolled by that day in order for that year to count for eligibility because of the cherry picking clause. And going to San Diego, my brother drove me down there and said, come check it out. And Coach Toner was friends with one of my former coaches from Cal Poly. So he said, if you like the campus and like team, then your grades are good enough. You can come to San Diego. So as he came down to San Diego, fell in love with the city instantly. And,
Well, as a former Aztec, Kassim, I just want to say thanks, man. Your era kind of brought back the glory days for the San Diego State Aztecs, and it was great seeing you. And tell us about leaving state and then going to the NFL and going in as a kind of a guy that was off the radar and making a huge impact right away. How did that work out for you?
Yeah, I'm only having spent one season at San Diego State playing. I was sort of behind the eight ball when it comes to exposure. So I had to really go out there and make a name for myself and sort of come from the bottom of the pile. So I was able to sign on with a free agent with the San Diego Chargers, so they would stay in San Diego. And Coach Lofton was the one who was recruiting me and saw something in me that, I decided to stick on with the Chargers. And it was a lot of hard work at first, just trying to prove to people that I deserve to be in the NFL. Having not been a draft pick, you sure have to work a little harder. You have to be next to perfect. As we all know, it's sort of next to impossible. But I stuck with my faith and knowing that to achieve a goal that I set out for myself, which was to be in the NFL. And I knew that hard work pays off. And it wasn't just anything about talent. It's more so about your work ethic, your personality, being able to fit into a system, knowing how to allow humility to step in front of you, and you just gracefully receive any handouts that are given to you. You make the most of your opportunities.
Yeah. I like how you say that, because making the transition from D1 to the pro level, everybody there has talent, and that's one thing that stuck out about you, Kassim, was your work ethic, your focus, your drive, and that led you to, becoming one of the best, if not best, special teams player in the NFL. Tell us about during that season of your life making Pro Bowls, and how did that feel being a some kid that nobody knew about to now being a Pro Bowler?
Yeah, we had a lot of undrafted free agents that came to the team my year. So myself, Stephen Cooper, Antonio Gates, were some of them in a few, Chris Dillman as well. And all these guys made their way into starting roles on the team. There's a lot more free agents that came on board as well that year, but it was slim pickings in order to be able to get a starting position and, outshine some of the draft picks, because, as you know, there's a scouting department, and they take pride in their ability to find talent, see talent, and draft them accordingly. So with all these free agents coming in and becoming starters, it kind of throws a monkey wrench in their plan. So, on the political aspect of it, I worked hard in order to get into a starting role, and then I had an injury. So after I was injured, they had a draft pick in there who's Vince Jackson, and he got into the starting role, and Vince is an awesome player. But once he had an ability to shine and make a name for himself, when I came back from the injury, it's sort of, had to start from scratch. And there wasn't a lot of opportunities to get in at receiver, and we had a pretty stacked roster. You have Malcolm Floyd, Vince Jackson, Antonio Gates, LaDainian Tomlinson. There's a lot of options on offense. So to come back from injury and sort of jump in the mix of things and try to be a star receiver was sort of hard, and I didn't. But I swallow my pride and understand that there's a position for me on this team. And if I was to humble myself, then I would have a lot of great years of excitement, being a part of the team, being in the NFL, doing what I love. And I decided to make the most of my special teams opportunity because I was also a defensive player in college. So I just had to revert back to my old mentality of smash mouth football and remove myself from the graceful, elegant deer-like strides on a wide receiver to snot coming out of the nose and eyes crossed and ready to hit anybody that moved. And, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed contact. I enjoyed football, the competitive nature. Special teams is pretty rough work, and I was proud of myself in being a blue-collar worker. And I always knew that I can get out there and out-hustle people, and sort of made a name for myself there and took pride in doing the dirty work because, at the end of the day, we're all here to have a party. And if you're not hosting the party, then you got to be the janitor. At least you're at the party still. So I didn't mind being the janitor and sweeping up the party after LT and Sean Merriman and those guys, went out there and did their thing.
That's interesting how you tie in those faith elements, Kassim, that these biblical principles work. Whether it's as a pastor, as a father, a husband, but an NFL star as well, to be humble and to really let others maybe get the glory allows you to get the glory in the long run by humbling yourself and accepting a role that maybe you could have rejected as a special teamer, but it led to you being a 3-time Pro Bowler, and it's so amazing how biblical principles work out in life. Why don't you share with us a little bit where you're up to now? I know you're a budding professional. I know being the world's sexiest man is a big burden, Kassim, but someone's got to be it. You know what I mean? And if that someone is you, then you just got to own it.
It's very hard to fend off this competitor I have. His name is Marcus Preciado. He's been the reigning champion, sexiest man for about 10 years running now. So
hey, that's what I tell my wife every day. So if I tell you enough, maybe she'll believe it.
Definitely.
Tell us about your acting career and how that's going.
Yeah, I have a movie premiere coming out in 2 weeks. October 26th, we're premiering our movie. We have a little scary movie coming out called The Psycho's Path, where Rampage Jackson, former UFC light heavyweight champion, is the serial killer in that movie. So it's a little fun, scary movie for Halloween. I just finished doing a commercial for insurance with Dennis Quaid also. So
wow.
Pretty outstanding individual. He's good people.
Yeah, you're playing with the big boys now, man, with Dennis Quaid and cats like that.
Yeah, it was. It's a hard profession. I'd say it's a little harder than getting into NFL. But I decided to play football first because it's a young man sport. So I wanted to get out there and run around while I was still young. But I always knew that acting was another passion that I could get into once I retired from football. So I got into football, and I try at most to just play and use the skills I learned from my classes, acting classes. So I got there because not having the notoriety, I can't walk in there and say, hey, I'm Danny Thompson, I want to get into a movie. I'm like, hey, I'm Kassim Osgood. And some people are like, oh, yeah, I know who he is. I watch football. Or, yeah, I don't really follow football, so I don't know. Use your merit and your talent. And the one thing I realized, there are so many people in this market. It's a very, very saturated market. It's very hard to get on. So you have to not only rely on the skills that you've been blessed with, but also it comes with favor. And I always find myself, before I go on auditions, asking the Lord for favor and granting me grace. Also, when I go out there and I perform, and likability is one thing that I would say that really, really comes true when it comes to Hollywood, is that you have to have likability. The camera's got to like you, the director's got to like you, the whole casting director's got to like you. So it's a lot of variables in there that you have to really go in on faith, knowing that God's prepared you to do it. You have the skills you've been blessed with. If you have humility, then God will bless you with more. So I've been finding myself staying tuned to the Word and understanding that, God gives you direction and things that He wants you to do, but then there's things that He doesn't want you to do. So, some of these roles aren't meant for me, and I humbly accept that, hey, they didn't pick me for this, and it didn't work out. So I'm happy to get what I receive, and also understand that you don't get everything, and don't be mad about not getting everything, because everything's not for you. Yeah. But what is for you is great for you.
Yeah. Tell us about how your faith, Kassim, how does it keep you anchored? You shared a little bit about that through a successful professional career and now your acting career.
Oh, just being able to reinvent yourself, going from your whole life playing football to all of a sudden now the next thing I want to do is get into acting. And a lot of times you would feel self-defeated, or you would feel like you're lacking something, or you feel inadequate. Self-consciousness comes into play. Your self-esteem may get kicked in the face, but I find if you have grounded yourself in moral principles built on Christ, you know that what you receive is what you've been destined to receive. Staying faithful. It's not about whether somebody says yes or no to you. It's about whether or not you're in touch with yourself and knowing that, you come out here to have a good time, and your good time might be auditioning. Your good time might be getting a role, or your good time might be creating a role if you're a writer or a director. So for myself, I use my faith to keep me grounded and knowing that I am who I am. I have my identity in Christ, and I'm here to do a profession, which is just a job at the end of the day. So when you clock out, is there any character left in your body that's not tied to your validation from other people?
Great points. And in closing, Kassim, what about a young listener? We have a lot of young listeners that are they know who God is, but they think, what, I can't, I want to pursue football or acting or glory for myself. What would you encourage them to do if they're on the fence about putting Christ first in their lives? What would your encouragement be to them?
I would tell people that something that worked for me that my mom told me long ago is that she was not a big fan of me playing football. And I just knew that one day, started when I was 12 years old, I had that voice in my head that told me, you're going to play football. To the point where people asked me, like, oh, we're going to play pickup ball in the yard. Who do you want to be? Somebody, I want to be Joe Montana. I want to be Jerry Rice. And I always said I want to be Kassim Osgood, because it's always been my goal, and I've always heard that voice. And I've always been close to God ever since I was saved. I was baptized at 8 years old.
Wow.
And I've always been very direct in what I know. And the voice that tells me something in my head, I do it. And I do it exactly because having that close faith, it allows you to lean on what you know to be correct. So you don't sway when the wind comes. You don't get blown over. You stay firmly grounded in the word that you know that's in your heart, and that word directs your mind so that you know what your destiny is. And people say, I don't believe in destiny, but destiny is just listening to what God already has mapped out for you.
Yeah.
So if you trust in God that he has a plan that's exact for you, then it takes the stress away of wondering what you should be doing, rather than knowing, hey, I hear this voice in my head, God speaking to me, I'm going to do that because I know that he knows better than I do. And I never stepped on that field one day without knowing that without faith, I would not get through it, because there's so many variables that could come into play. And so many people get injured, or the career is short, or the politics don't make it out, or you get cut from a team. At the end of the day, when you clock out, who are you? And if you're a man of God, and you have Christ rooted in your heart, then you know that if this isn't meant for you, this door closes, there's another door that's going to open. It's just a matter of whether or not you're in tune to hear him tell you which door to pick. Now, you might pick 3 or 4 doors that might not be right initially, but eventually you're going to pick that door that God's been telling you, hey, this has been the door the whole time. And when you get there, you're going to have that satisfaction of knowing that you're in congruence with what the word is saying, with what your actions are. And you definitely it's noticeable when God tells you a plan and you see that plan coming and you're acting on faith, and you can feel that in your heart that this is meant for me and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that gratitude of knowing that you're obeying God, it shows in the work that you put forth.
Kassim, great parting words for not only our listeners, but for me, the people part of this team. Thank you so much for joining us today, man. We look forward to God blessing this new career. You're having a huge impact. Continue to have fun, build that platform, and use it for God's glory. Kassim, thanks so much for joining us in the yard today. I appreciate it, brother. I love you, and we hope to chat with you soon.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I want to say one word to you, Marcus. I really appreciate you as a pastor, as a friend, man of God. You really reinvented yourself. You always have something going on that's creativity, and God has always blessed your ability to create something from scratch, and it becomes beautiful. And everything you do, God is the fruit of your labor, and I appreciate you as a friend.
Man, thank you, man. I look forward to you being part of the yard as God does crazy things with this as well. Once again, I love you. Tell your family I said hi, and we'll chat with you soon, brother.
Hey, Kassim Osgood in the yard!
Yeah! Another great time here in the yard. Thanks, Kassim, for joining us. Thank you guys once again for listening. I'm Marcus Preciado, and you are in the yard.